Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Randy's trying to gulp down some food. He's just sliding in at the wire from a meeting from his job. So he's trying to at least get something in there.
Randy's stuffing his face right now.
Yeah, he's stuffing it.
Such a consummate professional.
Hang on. Let me think about this for a second. Now I'll do it. How's that?
We'll still be able to hear you.
Hey, gummit.
Because he'd be going, whoa, 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 whoa.
I'll just hold off and wait till I belch into it.
Right. Please mute your mic. Anyway, hello everybody, and welcome to our newest episode of Paranormal Show and Tell. This last week has been pretty much uneventful for me. I haven't done anything except go to work, which is not fun at all. I don't know. I hate adulting. I just hate it.
Join the club. Geez, you think you're the only one? What the heck?
I hate it. Oh my goodness. But things are coming up, of course. We have our benefit going on March 7th at Emmaus Village for Adam Whited, and he is from the Half Inch Wrench Crew, one of our close friends. And we have tickets still available. It's for basically whatever you want to do. If you want to ghost hunt, you can look for UFOs. You can even do a little cryptid investigating if you want to. You can do all kinds of stuff while you're out there. It is on March 7th. If you're looking for tickets, go to Emmaus Village on Facebook. They should have the link there. So come see us all. And I got to say this now. All of the blondes are going to be there. Natalie, Krista, myself, and Mary Lynn are all going to be there. Sir Brian Bowden is going to be there.
Speaking of which, I am by.
You don't even know what he's going to say.
Paper locked there for a second, thinking, "Oh my gosh, you got all four blondes in one place at one time again." There's going to be lightning striking all over the place there. I'm telling you.
You betcha. Something weird's going to happen. You can mark my words. I'm going to bring extra equipment just so I can catch it. You know what I'm saying? I am not going without. But Brian, have a good show. He's off to do his show. I'll try to catch it after this one, or I'll watch the replay, which I normally always have to do with his show is catch that replay. But it's always wonderful.
This is just for Brian. I'm going to give you my best Curly Bill impersonation. Well, bye.
Bye. At least he stopped in and said hello.
Yes, he did. You better give a thumbs up. Hey, he gave you some money too. Looky there.
Hey,
right.
Oh,
and we are going to have the other members of the Half Inch Wrench Crew are going to be there. Our friend Miguel Ramirez from Sasquatch Theory, he is going to be there. You can catch him on YouTube on all of his shows. I think he has just released something. But the funniest thing was we were watching him during this whole snowstorm, and he was literally camping everyone in a tent. And I'm like, you're nuts. But that's beside the point. I guess you go when you go. You know, even if it's freezing.
Yeah.
So there is that. So what you been up to, Donnie?
We got into a new video game, Cyberpunk 2077. It's great. It's a masterpiece. You get to play as Keanu Reeves. It's a dream come true.
Oh, no. Well, we won't see Donnie except for shows for the next 3 weeks.
What do you mean? He gave up on shows on the last one.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah. He really did.
And I was like, no game will top Baldur's Gate 3. That was the best. And then Cyberpunk 2077 came along. And Keanu Reeves stars in it. I'm here for it.
Okay, well, there it is. There it is.
You know he's my guy. He's my guy.
Right. Now, are you playing this online with other people, or are you just playing yourself?
I play purely by myself. I don't like playing with other people online. All those dregs. No, I like to spend quality time with me.
Right, because I hate it when people are like, "You're moving too fast," or "Come on, you got to move forward," or "Go here, go there." It's like, leave me alone.
I don't feel the need to interact with so many people. I got this, Brandy. I got this.
That's right. That's right. All right.
I don't know if
And
I'd count that if I was you.
we already know what Randy. Randy has been so busy that he is totally unprepared for tonight's show.
Mhm.
He didn't do his homework. So we'll just carry you, Randy. Okay, me and Donnie got this.
Hey, there's a first time for everything.
That's right. That's right. You can sit back and play in the peanut gallery. Okay, make your comments.
Oh, that's so I get to go 100% be y'all, huh? Is that what it is?
All right.
I'm going to bring both of y'all. I'm going to siphon your knowledge in, and I'm going to. Never mind. I'm just going to sit here.
There it is. There it is. Well, okay. So tonight we're going to be talking about haunted Chicago. Because we all know that these big cities, I'm telling you, they have such a vast history that how could they not be haunted for real? I mean, that's the question. How could they not be haunted? And
Every major city is haunted in some way. That's what I believe.
It is. It is. And I mean, the most I would say the most heard of story out of Chicago is Resurrection Mary.
Mhm.
Everybody has heard of Resurrection Mary.
The most classic ghost story there is.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And the story goes is that she got dressed up in a white dress and she had went to a dance. And as she was leaving the dance, she got in a car and they were in a car accident where she had passed away on, I believe it is Archer Avenue. And as the classic story goes, everyone, they see the woman walking down the street, people stop, they pick her up, and then they start talking to her. And then as soon as they get to the cemetery, she disappears.
Yeah.
So that is a very classic story. And it's so sad about how that this had actually happened and that her poor soul is still out there hanging around, just walking around. That's just sad. I mean, because you get all dressed up, you get all pretty, you go to a really cool event, and then bam, that's it. I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Donnie? Do you think she's out there? I mean, do you think that she's just hanging around, hitchhiking and taking rides from strangers?
There have been fairly recent sightings. I was watching a report from like the 70s, one in the 70s, a couple in the 80s, where people claim to have seen her.
Yes. They're still claiming to see her.
Legitimately, yeah.
Yeah. And we've all heard that. Mm-hmm.
I thought the woman in white was the most recognizable ghost story. It is the most recognizable ghost story because pretty much every culture has it.
Mm-hmm. And every city with an old cemetery has it. Honestly,
yeah. Right. But I have my theory on this white. I don't think that all these people are dressed in white. I think that's what they appear to us as. It's something we can, visualize and see. I mean, maybe it is part of their manifestation where it only comes up white, where it's void of color. So it appears to us as white, but maybe their dress may be blue or pink or yellow or, but we're just seeing white. I have actually caught an apparition that was a misty, ghosty white. But I've also caught a full-bodied apparition who is in full color and looks like they're standing there. So, I mean, it may be just these different points of manifestation or the amount of energy that they have if they're producing color or not. I don't know. I mean, it's all theory. There's no experts. There, it's all opinion we're throwing out here. I just think there's too many in white. I don't think they're all wearing white. I think that's just how we're seeing it. Just like, the Hat Man.
Yeah, it's always black.
It's always black.
Yeah.
It's always black. Is it all black?
You never see them wearing like polka dots or stripes or red and blue.
Navy blue or anything. Blue. It's always black. It's always black.
Yeah.
And the women are always white. What is up with that?
I don't know.
No hot pink.
No hot pink. No. No
Well,
lime
wait a
green.
second. We did do one on the pink lady, remember, in that one
Yeah,
picture.
but it wasn't hot pink, Randy.
Well, that's
Right.
true. It
Yeah, it
was
was
kind of
Just
pink.
regular pink. I'm talking about the hot neon pink.
Well, we don't have the right soundtrack for that. Boom, chick, wow, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, can I tell you guys real quick the Korean version of the Resurrection Mary story? It's pretty gnarly.
Go.
Oh, go.
Okay. So it's a classic story of like a taxi driver driving down, but it's in Korea, right? He sees a girl at the side of the road, all dressed in white. Her black hair is all coming down her face. He picks her up, asks her where she needs to go, and she points, she tells him to go to this traditional style Korean home at the top of a hill, right? It's all isolated. And those traditional Korean homes, it's kind of like those Asian homes with the paper doors.
Yes.
Okay. So rather than paying her fare, she runs out the taxi and runs into the home. Taxi driver's like, "Hey, you didn't pay the fare." So he goes in after her, looking for her, but everything is dark. The house is very eerie. You know, paper doors, you can see the light through it, but you can't see any lights. Everything's dark except for one room where he could see sort of like what looks like candlelight behind the door,
Hmm.
but it's looking abandoned, but he's guessing it's got to be her. So what he does is he pokes a hole with his finger through the door so he can look inside, but he sees nothing but red, just red.
Huh.
Weird. So he pulls back, he looks back at the door, it looks like regular candlelight. Looks back in the hole, just sheer red.
Right.
Mm.
He gets freaked out. So he goes back into his cabin and goes to like an eatery, like kind of like a old Asian style, like, those eateries.
Yeah.
Old Asian equivalent of like a diner. He's talking to the locals, he's drinking his alcohol, he's eating his meal, and he's talking to all the locals, he's telling them about the story, and
Mm.
then everyone just kinda drops what they're doing, they're like, "Oh, no, you didn't." And he's like, "Why?" They explain, "Well, there was this girl in that area who died, and everyone was so sad, tragic story." They lay out the whole origin story, kinda like Resurrection Mary, but
Hmm.
then they say at the end, "Apparently, if you see the ghost of this girl, she's got red eyes."
Ooh.
Oh, so they were looking right back at him.
He was, like, eye to eye with her.
Oh, that is freaky. That yeah, that's kind of freaky. There's a similar story, and I've told this before somewhere else. But there is a bridge that is south of Tampa, and I believe it is the Skyway Bridge, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's been years since I've been down there. But as the story goes, the other bridge that was there was hit by a boat, which then made it collapse. In the meantime, when it collapsed, there are cars that went down with the bridge.
Mhm.
So they had rebuilt the bridge, but half of the old bridge is still there. They use it as like a fishing pier. Like I've seen it. You can walk right out there and fish right off of this pier. Looks like a highway, looks like a bridge, but it's been, fashioned in a way where they can use it as a fishing pier. Well,
Gotcha.
what they have
Okay.
done is when they built the new bridge, of course, they built it higher to avoid any contact with any type of vessel. And now it seems to be that when people are driving up to the bridge and going up on the bridge, that a woman will appear in their car and she will appear in the back seat. And then when they hit the top of the bridge, where the accident happened on the old bridge, but this is the new bridge, now they're sitting right side by side, that she will disappear. So they will see her apparition in the car, and then when they
Gotcha.
get to the top of the bridge, she disappears.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I've never seen any, physical evidence of it. No pictures, no. There's just nothing out there. No video. There's just nothing out there. But I mean, it is an interesting story. And again, in her case, they're saying she is very pale and wearing white. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of these stories out there that they're running around in white. But the story is with Mary is that she did go to the dance in a white dress.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. That if she does appear in white, well, it's a white dress that we know she had. So if you're ever on Archer Avenue there in Chicago, be careful. Don't pick up any female hitchhikers. Or if you're like us, you probably will.
I do have a question though on that
Yeah.
one. Honestly, I think we might have even talked on her before on the Lady in White show we did on this a while
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't there one where the guy that picked her up and then took her, dropped her off, saw her go into it and tried to follow her in, and she kind of led him to the grave of a Mary something, if I'm not mistaken.
Gosh, I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. 'Cause,
Yeah, I don't remember that now. That's possible, but they say in most cases she leads them to the cemetery where she is buried, and then when they get to the gates, she disappears.
disappears. Yeah,
That,
just
yeah,
dissipates. Yeah.
yeah.
Or they look
That's,
back
I
and say,
mean,
okay, she's gone.
right. Which
Yeah.
it is. I mean, but that's the most famous story. I mean, but it seems like every place I can think of has something similar.
Well, yeah.
There's a lady in white somewhere. But in
I
this
just
case, like I said, she was actually wearing white when she passed away. So
I see where he uploaded the one picture that you had right there. I'm
I'm
assuming it's
not
the
there
one
yet. I'm
that you
not there
said.
yet.
No. I'm talking about the lady in white one. There's one.
Oh,
Oh,
his
this
One
one.
lady in white.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that one. Now, there's one I just uploaded on there, Donnie, and it's in the same spot. And I just wanted to ask this one real quick because we haven't talked a lot about Bachelor's Grove because that's there too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you gonna hit on Bachelor's Grove as well?
No.
No, you can go for that.
Well, the only reason I asked that is because when I was out from around, and I just happened to think about it while we were talking about her because I remembered Lady in White, and we talked about it, the old Bachelor Grove cemetery photo, and we always see, the spot where the lady's always been zoomed in on and such like that. This was
Mhm.
Mhm.
the actual original photo, okay,
Mhm.
and this was supposedly taken somewhere in what 1991, I think it was, or 90. So I'd have
Mhm.
to look up all the stuff on it again, but it didn't dawn on me until I just saw this one out of the corner of my eye a while ago. I was like, this we always centered on her. We never had the entire picture to kind of look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I read the stuff where the lady that was the granddaughter or daughter of the gentleman who took the picture, and he had actually said they had set it up. Now I can't find that anywhere anymore on Facebook. I imagine that group is completely gone now. But
Mhm.
she did state that it was done in a certain way to give it the look because number one, you're in the middle of the day and you take a picture black and white of that cemetery. But we all know Tom Halstead did the same thing, but he just got the feeling point and shoot, just like we had all talked about before with the
Yeah.
zombie road and the stuff at so now makes me want to go back and think more about that picture and say maybe she just did something to get people off her butt, or whatever, and get them out of the way and leave her alone. And maybe there's something else going with this photo that I don't know, but I can't. It's still hard to get any real verification on it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. A lot of the information and things that we I want to say grew up with, but the stuff that we were reading as we were growing up and things, that information has disappeared, and that's sad.
yeah,
Um, as historians pass away and groups, disperse and things like that, where we lose a lot of information. Um, which is sad, because most of our historians, if you look around in any town and you go check out a historian at any museum or wherever that they're set up at, um, they're older in years. I'm just going to say that they're older in years, and I have only run across, I think, two young historians that I can remember. The most of them have been elderly, and so we lose a lot of information every time we lose a historian because they always have that one piece of knowledge, and we sometimes we forget, and then they take it with them. So it's good to keep passing this information on so we know
yeah.
um, all the history. Write a book, by golly, write a
We
book.
love we love history a
We
lot.
love history. I really do. I really
Yeah.
do.
I
But
went.
as we're talking about history,
Mhm.
the one of the famous hauntings again is the old, they call it the Iroquois Theater. That, of course, this is the big theater that was all the rage. It was very beautiful on the inside, very ornate. When they said they had built it, the fire marshal, the inspectors, all of them had said, hey, this is fireproof. Okay. So as time goes on, it was let me see, I think it was December 30th. Okay, December 30th, 1903. They had an afternoon matinee of, I think it was a comedy or something. It was called Bluebird, but it was a comedy that they had going on. Well, during this this whole show, they had sold out. So they had an upper tier and a lower tier, and they were completely sold out. Not only were they sold out, they sold an extra 100 tickets of standing room only for this show.
Just from that picture you just saw, there's no way you fit an extra 100 people in that theater. I'm sorry.
Standing room only.
Even then, you pack them in like they're on a subway.
That's right. That's why 100 tickets doesn't sound like a lot, but 1,700 people were in attendance this day for this afternoon showing of Bluebird.
Yeah.
So
and it was mostly women and kids too.
Yeah, and they were a lot of them were commenting after the fact that they had seen a lot of women and children in the theater, and they've never seen so many, but they had all showed up. I guess it was because it was an afternoon showing. Most of the time, they're at nighttime. They leave the children home. That's kind of like date night, that sort of thing. Well, unfortunately, a fire had started within this building and killed 602 people that night. 600.
It started from the stage. I believe the curtain caught on fire.
Okay. Well, let me go through the story, and then what it was is it was a spotlight that caught a curtain on fire is what had happened with that. And when they caught the curtain on fire, one of the lead actors comes out, says, hey, hang on, we're going to put this out, blah blah blah. So their fire extinguisher at the time was a powder that they would throw on a fire and extinguish the fire. Well, the fire was so high up at one point that they couldn't put it out. So they decided to drop an asbestos curtain that is supposed to, extinguish the fire, which then it got caught on some light. So the curtain didn't come down. So the fire is still raging. Now, this thing also had skylights that were supposed to be able to be opened so the fire and the smoke would go up and out versus, going towards, the guests, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Guess what? They were nailed shut. Exactly my point. So as this fire started to burn out of control, people were losing their minds and trying to get out. Now, none of the exits were had a sign on them. Nothing said exits. Nobody knew where the fire exit or safety exits were.
Yeah.
They were just trying every type of door. And at the time, some brilliant person decided they were going to put, what are they called? Bascule locks. Now, these bascule locks, you kind of have to pull them out and turn them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, these were very of the times in Europe.
Yeah.
During the early 1900s. So they put them in there, but the American people didn't know how to open these types of doors because they didn't have those. Now, if you'll put that picture up of a lock, I put on there, you can see how kind of weird it is, how you would have to pull it out and twist it and then pull on it. Okay. So being an American, most would think that the doors would open in an outward motion. But they weren't opening in an outward motion. They were opening on an inward motion, which people were, you know, piling on top of one or trying to get out, but they couldn't get the door open because of all these people smashing into them. So they couldn't get the doors open. Now, the people up in the balcony, they had a whole different thing happening up there. In the balcony, they were trying to get out the doors and they got to the fire escapes. But unfortunately, it was so cold that the fire escapes were frozen and they wouldn't unlatch and hit the ground. So as people were being pushed out those doors, they were falling off and all kinds of stuff. Now, this is why they were falling off and all kinds of stuff. Now, during these shows, it was common practice to basically gate off the upper level so those patrons wouldn't try to come down and steal a better seat on the lower floor. So they would lock gates and essentially lock everybody upstairs so they wouldn't go steal seats. So they were locked in and couldn't get anywhere except they were trying to get out through the fire escapes. Now, there were some onlookers, you know, across this alley, which they have now named Death Alley, and there's a reason. They were across and they were putting out like 4x4 planks going across the alleyway, trying to get people to come across. They were putting ladders out there, trying to get people to come across. Well, people were falling to their death right there. If you've ever seen pictures of how high that is, it's very easy to do. I mean, you can really, really hurt yourself. They said that there were so many bodies that had fallen and piled up on the outside in that alley that essentially the last of the people that were trying to get through, get across and fell off, survived because they fell on top of the bodies that were at the bottom in this alley, which is really super scary. And I mean, there were so many things. Then, okay, so the stagehands were trying to get the back door of the theater open so they can get the actors out. But when they did that, it created a backdraft, which created a fireball that shot right through the theater. It sounded like a cannon going off, which in turn made this even a bigger fire than when it started before.
Yeah, they just added oxygen to it.
That's right. Yep, they sure did. So they were just adding oxygen, and it just made a whole mess.
Yeah.
When the fire marshal and all of them got in there, and the fire department took them like 30 minutes to get this out, which that was pretty quick. I mean, for me, that for a building that big, that was pretty quick.
Well,
so they got it out.
Like the majority of it was all like right around the stage area, you know, and stuff. Whereas
it was all through it. It burned people up all the way through that place. It was totally devastated. Because of the
hard to believe
fireball.
They got it out in 30 minutes, and there had been something else going on. So
yeah, there was a fireball that went through and did that. They said that when they were trying to get into the building, that the bodies at the doors were piled so high that they couldn't get in some of the doors. That they
opened inward instead of outward.
Right. And they were just all piled there and they just couldn't get in. So it was really super scary. So in this whole thing, okay, they said that this thing was virtually fireproof. Doesn't it sound like something else?
They jinxed it from the get-go, first of all.
But doesn't it sound like something, I don't know, a Titanic?
Unsinkable?
Yes.
Unsinkable?
Yes. Okay, doesn't it sound like that? So what they were doing is they were paying off the fire marshal, the inspectors, everybody. They would give them tickets and all kinds of stuff, and give them all these little perks just to turn their head so that they can go see all the good shows and the best actors and actresses and all this and get the best seats. So they kind of turned a blind eye to it. But they also never held one fire drill within that building, and nobody knew what to do, just in case, because anybody who had ever worked in a fire would know what a backdraft is.
Yeah.
They would know, hey, okay, so the fire marshal would come in, hold this, this instruction, little course on what to do. They never did that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so in this alley, they just started stacking bodies as soon as they got in, because they already had numerous bodies out there. I mean, there was probably a few hundred outside, there was a few hundred inside, totaling 602. So they were setting them outside in the alley and around the corner. During this time, though, they were trying to figure out what happened and all this. Well, eventually, charges were filed against, of course, your fire marshal, your inspectors, your person who designed and constructed the building, all of that stuff. They were all set up on charges, but guess what? They were all eventually dismissed. There was only one man who went to prison. One. And that was I think what you would call a saloon or a tavern owner that was right there, and they were using parts of his property as part of this makeshift morgue. He was going around to these dead bodies and stealing their personal items while they were laying out there in the alley.
Well, he deserved to go right off the bat.
Right. He is
But-
the only one that was convicted and sent to prison.
So, but
People
all
were
these
kind of
others,
like that back then.
yeah, when all this stuff that's happening that you talk about, and people getting acquitted and crap like that, means somebody somewhere did a lot of paying off.
That's right. I'm thinking, okay, so you've got all of these officials who had said, okay, this is safe, this is all good, but they're partly responsible for 602 people dying.
I found oh, sorry. I found a couple pictures, Brandy, of the aftermath. Want to see?
Yeah, I've probably seen them. I just didn't want to. Yeah,
Just with no
That's what-
body.
yeah.
No,
this
just
was
after they cleared out the bodies.
That's when
But-
they
I
cleared
mean,
out everything.
look at those balconies. I mean, those people that were caught up there were literally roasted alive. When
Yes,
we get right down to it.
yes, because they couldn't get down. They couldn't get out the door. They
No,
couldn't
other
get
than-
down.
Other than jumping off or some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, they were getting out the fire exit, but remember the
Couldn't go anywhere.
yeah, they couldn't go anywhere because it was
Actually-
all frozen out there, and they couldn't get the fire stairs down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The
I
fire
read-
escapes were just null and void.
I read the state. So I did a little bit of digging into this story as well for like a podcast I did years back. Apparently, the way they found the bodies, or the state that the bodies were in when they finally made it in, because it was really hard for them to finally get in because all of the people were all jammed up against the doors.
Exactly.
So that
'cause
when
we
they
were-
finally were able to make it into the theater, what they would find were like heaps of like bodies
Mhm.
mushed up against the main net doors, but the doors opened inwards, so there was
Yeah,
no way
that's-
to open the doors.
Hence the door, because
Yeah.
that's when I saw the bascule lock. You
Yeah.
got to pull it out, twist it, and pull in. So they didn't know how those worked on a fire exit. So during that time frame, a lot of fires were occurring in theaters. Don't ask me why, but they were. Not just in Chicago, but I mean everywhere. They were occurring everywhere.
Well, I mean,
What year
you
was
gotta
this
think
again?
about it like this. This was This was 1903. Everything was
Okay.
made out of wood. Fire codes didn't really exist back then. I mean,
those
Oh,
are
they
fireworks.
said they did. They said
Yeah,
it
but,
was
I mean, a
fireproof.
lot of the fire codes that exist today were actually a result of the Iroquois theater fire.
Especially for buildings, large buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, with all of this happening, we're going to get to what I'm talking about here in a second. But they said this was the highest number of fatalities in a single building incident
I
up
can believe that.
until the 9/11 incident.
It
A
doesn't
single
surprise me.
building. So isn't that kind of scary? So that does tell you right there that, hey, that's why we have all these new fire things, because of look at how many people passed away in this single building fire.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you look at that Iroquois Theater, I know it's big on the inside, and what you look at that front side of it and stuff. That's really, of course, at that time they weren't as big as people think they were. It wasn't really a gigantic building, honestly.
No.
No,
You could have,
no,
you could fit. How many seats were there again? Something like 200 and some odd.
no. There's more than that. There was way more
It
than
was
that.
like 600 something people that wound up dying.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, there were 1,700 people in that building.
There was 1,700 people in that building that night.
1,700.
I mean, that there is no looking at that freaking picture. There's no way in hell I would have ever thought that you could have got 1,700 people into that building.
You wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so.
And
But-
Now, and
the irony is that there weren't very many burn deaths. The majority of those deaths were either smoke inhalation or people being crushed to death
crushed
by
it. Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Right.
it's wild though. I mean, because you see the theaters nowadays. I mean, the comedians play not the stadiums. I'm talking about the normal size theater. You're talking about 1,500 to 2,000 people, but that's seated, and it's bigger than that by a long shot.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, some went up to
think
5,000, but still.
I think it's a little bit bigger now. They have rebuilt that theater. It reopened. Check it out. It that burned up in 1903. They reopened it in 1926 as the Oriental Theater.
Okay.
So they rebuilt it. I mean, they took their time. There was no hurry about that, I'm sure.
Well,
I guess there was probably a lot of stigma around that.
Yeah, people still have it fresh in their minds at that point too.
Right. So there was a lot of stigma. So they took their time rebuilding that, turned it into the Oriental Theater, and then they renamed it again the Nederland Theater, and that's what it is today. Which there is a picture, kind of the front of what it looks like today. There should be on there. It's in lights or something. I think I have that on there.
I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Oh, it ain't on here.
No, Donnie, you had it on there.
No, I'm like what it looks like now.
Oh, no, I meant the one in lights that's on there.
Yeah, it's there. Randy, pop that sucker up. Pull this
Weird.
one up.
We're trying to get that last picture up. But I mean,
Here's what it looks like now, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's see, now that's a lot more seats and such in there than what was in that burnt picture.
Oh, I'm sure. But it was huge as it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. That place was big. It was not a small place by any means.
That's it today. The Nederlander Theater.
Yeah. And it is just as beautiful and ornate as it was when it was first built.
I bet you that place is haunted as all get out.
That's what I was going to ask. That was the first question about that. Do you think there's any spirits in there?
Right. Well, they were talking about, I think it was the first, let me see, what famous Broadway play went there? I think it was Wicked. And there was actually an SNL, I can't remember her name right now. She was off of SNL and she played one of the characters in Wicked. In, I think it was 2005.
When the play was really going.
Yeah, I think it was 2005. I think it only played there for like a year.
Wait, 05? No, that's way too early to go. I was still in the Army. Wicked's been out since after I got out of the Army.
Maybe no, you're talking about the movie. We're talking about the play.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It didn't come out till after I got out of the Army.
Oh.
But either way, you're right, though. It's probably 10, 12 years ago minimum, at least.
Hold on. Let's look that up. When Wicked played there, because I think I might have my dates mixed up because I could. But I mean, can you imagine all of these things going on and then you knowing that all this stuff happened and then you're doing a play there?
Well, the novel was 95. I'm trying to find it, honestly. You're right, though. I mean, it very well could have been that because the first U.S. tour was in 2005. You may be right. I thought it came out much later, but it doesn't look like it did because the book the book that Wicked's based on was in 2000 or in 1995. So I'm like, oh crud. Okay, wait a second.
Yeah,
Now,
I think
yeah,
it was. No, I think it was 2005.
I think you're right. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. That's most likely because the first U.S. tour of it was in 2005, so that had to been it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. And it does, and that's kind of crazy. But she was talking about in an interview how she was seeing, like, there's a part where she has to go. She is hoisted up, into kind of, up in the rafters and things like that. And she seen a whole lot of people up there. There's always people up there because there's many people that have to make this show happen behind the scenes. So she's used to seeing a lot of people there, but she said there was just more than usual up there. Like, it looked like groups, like almost like family groups up there. And as she came back down and looked back up, they weren't there anymore. And they wouldn't have moved, as they were, the play was ongoing. They wouldn't have been running around up there. So, I
Here's
mean,
your
it was
one
just
for
kind
you.
of scary. But in that alleyway, they say that they can hear people screaming and crying and just all kinds of things happening, such as they may see shadows, if the lighting is just
Residual
right.
type stuff.
Yeah, because it's kind of secluded. I mean, it's right there in the middle of everything, but then it's kind of secluded.
Here's
It-
you a little bit of trivia though. That you're talking about what we were talking about 2005. You're right. It was 2005. June 24th, 2025 is when it opened in that theater. It
Mhm.
ran in that theater till 2009.
Oh, 2009. Okay, then
Yeah.
it must have been
No,
heard just to 2006. Okay,
yeah, because I mean,
that's where I've got
no,
my.
no, it ran solidly there from 2005 till 2009.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the woman from SNL was probably only on there for a year.
Yeah,
I think
maybe. I don't know.
I think that's maybe what had
Yeah,
happened there.
they do rotations like that.
But I just
Yeah.
thought it was cool. That was like one of the longest running stage productions in Chicago history. Was that on that stage? And I'm like, that's wild. I didn't even think about
Well,
that.
it's an iconic theater. I mean, it is absolutely a gorgeous place and
Yeah.
nice, and I mean, who wouldn't want to let that happen? Werewolf, thank you.
Right.
It's, Fire Marshal Bill would not have let this happen. No,
Let me tell
'cause
you
he would.
something.
Let me show you something. Yeah, let me show you something.
Oh my goodness gracious. That caught me off guard.
The
Sorry.
the craziest part is that wasn't even the biggest fire Chicago had seen.
Uh-uh.
Because you
No,
got
it
the Iroquois.
wasn't. It was the biggest single structure fire.
Yeah. It was the biggest concentration of death for sure.
Yes, the
Yeah,
single,
biggest.
it singles. What would they say? A single structure catastrophe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then that the only thing that surpassed it was 9/11.
Now the biggest fire that Chicago had seen was the Great
Yeah.
Chicago Fire of 1871,
Yep.
which wound up. The death toll wasn't nearly as high; it was 300, but 17,000 buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Basically,
The
if
whole
you look
state.
at pictures of Tokyo after the fire bombings, that's exactly what Chicago looked like in the
I mean,
aftermath.
even with that, how can you not have hauntings if the whole city is on fire?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, think about it. That looked like Godzilla stomped all through that sucker.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just amazing to me. But like I said, fires were a thing in Chicago. They, it's like every time you turned around, there was a fire somewhere. I mean, throughout the history and the things that I were looking up, because I went from, reading about the building itself, then going to reading about what had happened, and then I went back to the inspection and fire reports, and they said this thing was perfect, perfect. But you have to tell me why everything that they put in effect for fire safety, none of it was working. None of it. To me, it would have been okay. We can't open the upstairs balcony because the fire escapes are iced over and they won't come down. So we're going to have to get those working before we can have a show. We're going to have to do a check on that curtain to make sure the curtain comes down. We're going to have to, all these other things. Make sure the skylight's open so everything would have been sucked up and out versus going right at the audience.
Well,
But that's what Donnie said, that it wasn't the burn victims.
Yeah.
It was smoke inhalation that got most all of them.
And crushing. I mean, but honestly, think about it. Those guys going out onto the fire escapes. Okay, it's frozen. Got it. Wasn't the first thing you think about? Hey, give me something to start beating ice off this with.
Right. We have to get these workable before we open the doors.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the people that were getting out there. The first people out there should have been, hey, give me something I can beat this. See what? But they're not thinking at that situation at all.
You got to understand that too, Randy. It's not just one or two people that were out there. You're talking about bunches
Everybody
coming
trying
out
to get
and slamming into each other, trying to get down. So they not only not had time, they did not have the room to do so. And plus, you're sitting in a theater. What are you going to have?
Something, anything. That's what I'm saying. Boots, whatever. I mean, I don't know that. But once again, we're talking about people in that state of panic. Do not think.
I mean, if you're getting crushed up against a railing, as you're coming out, I couldn't get my boots off.
Yeah. You also have to remember that the smoke was so thick, everyone was blind.
Yeah, they pretty much were. And they were like I said, they were trying to get over from the 4x4s people were putting across and laying them on the fire escape so people could crawl across. Some made it. But I mean, even the ones who made it, 250 of those people were still injured.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of them who fell at the end there were cushioned by the other bodies that were laying down at the bottom. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're right, Randy, when you're talking about residual.
Yeah.
Because all of the screaming and panic and all that energy that was just sucked in by, the walls and the concrete and everything there. You don't think concrete can suck up energy? It can.
Yeah. That ground right below it sucked up a lot of that energy.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, just the pure carnage of what was going on. I'm sure it was a mess with all, well, you're going to fall and guess what's going to happen. So, with everything, just seeping into the ground wherever it could and the cracks and all of that, some of that's still left. And they knew that something like this, that it was going to have some kind of bad juju because of the fact they didn't rebuild that thing until 1926. 23 years later.
Yeah. Makes sense. I wouldn't rush into it either.
Right. And they were saying that the money that it would cost to build that so it would be comparable to $1 million today is what it took to build that in the first place.
That probably wasn't more than that. Honestly.
That would have been a lot of money back in that day to build that. You know what I mean? $1 million. I mean, we can't think about buildings today because everything is just outrageous. Taxes are outrageous. We all know. But back to buy, the stuff that they put in it, $1 million. You'd have some nice. It'd be nice.
You're saying that's today's money or that the money of that time?
Well, if you take the amount of money they put into the building when they first built it, it's comparable to $1 million today.
And see, that's why I was thinking that might be kind of low, honestly, if you think about it. Because that stuff looked very, very good for being just $1 million. I would have bet it would have been more. That's what I'm saying. I would, with what you saw beforehand, I would have bet it would have been more.
No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. The amount of money would have been comparable to $1 million.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Back in, when they built it.
So, but $1 million when they were building it.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Because when you say $1 million today, I'm thinking $1 million of today's money. I'm like, that looks a
The
lot lighter
money,
than
yeah, the money they put
yeah,
into that building is
is $1 million.
comparable is to $1 million
Okay.
building it back back in that day. So it was nice. So why did they cut corners when they really didn't need to? Why did they stuff people in there when they could have just had another showing? Why were they doing all the things that they were doing? It's all because of greed.
More money.
Every bit of it. Because I
More
mean,
money.
yeah, the skylights, they were nailed shut.
Which
Why?
makes no sense. That makes
No.
absolutely no sense.
Maybe they were leaking. I don't know.
Nail wouldn't help that.
That's all they said, that it was nailed shut. Now, now if they put anything else over it or anything, they didn't mention that. They said they were nailed shut.
Yeah. Now you also got to think 1903 or 1906, whatever this was. Safety
1903,
was
like, yeah, I mean, Lil Patty's like, why cut corners on safety? This is 1903. If you look at anything from 1903,
they didn't
there
care.
was very little, they didn't care about safety back then.
No.
There was no OSHA. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
that 4-letter word there, but there was no OSHA. So, they could get away with
Yeah.
pretty much whatever they wanted as long as they were quote unquote in code.
Yeah, and their in code was, scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. That was their in code. So, I mean, it could have all been prevented for number
Mhm.
one, outward opening doors versus inward opening doors, using American standard handles, having your exits marked properly, and making sure that all exits were working before the show started. Because they knew it was cold, they knew it'd been snowing and all of that kind of stuff. They knew all of this stuff. I mean, they were all about greed, and that is just pure and simple. It really is.
But like you're saying with the stuff on the de-icing / breaking the ice off of the fire escapes and stuff,
Yeah.
that only takes a regular worker to go out there and beat that stuff off a few minutes, really.
Really. That's it. All they would have to do is go hit them hard enough to get that stuff to come off, let them
Makes it
down, and
work.
bring them back up. That's all you had to do. But they didn't do that. But again,
that could have just been laziness there.
but
That's
the
just straight out
bascule locks, I think, were probably the worst because they wouldn't have known how to pull them in and turn them. They wouldn't have known how to do that. That is something definitely European. It wasn't something that Americans knew at the time how to use. So that was kind of stupid to put them on exits. Hey, if you wanted to put them on bathroom doors, be my guest. Do that, or office doors, or side rooms, or whatever. If you wanted to make it look neat, that's fine. But they should have used American Standard handles so people could recognize them to open them. Plus, the simple exit sign.
Again, this is 1903. I don't think they cared too much about that kind of stuff back then.
Right. And then what happened to the old axe in the glass? Break for emergencies.
Oh, I know they didn't have that.
No,
that didn't come around till the 50s, actually.
I know.
Safety comes from precedents. There needs to have been a precedent for that safety measure to be taken. In 1903, there was no precedent to something like that. In fact, that event was the precedent.
It was.
Safety measures
It was.
to be
Even though there are many other places that had fires, including theaters, public places, and they just turned a blind eye to them until this happened, and they could not ignore it anymore. So
a lot of the safety measures, the safety standards were updated specifically because of the Iroquois Theater fire.
Yeah. So I mean, I could just see the hauntings. I mean, inside, in Death Alley, even in a lot of the buildings that are close. I mean, I could see this being just an absolute haunted, even block.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you did an investigation there, you need the entire place, especially down at ground level.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to investigate that alleyway as well, along with mainly right at those front doors.
No, any door. It was any door that led to the outside. You know what I mean? Any door.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter. It was actually a fire hazard waiting to happen, and it was all caused by a spotlight and a curtain.
Yeah.
So because they
Once
haven't
again-
checked their equipment and it shorted out, caught the curtain on fire, and
And
that's
those-
where it all began.
Think about it, the lights, the electrical lights and stuff like that were still newfangled to these people. I mean, honestly, think about it. They did not have electric lights in the older vaudeville days, and such. There was all somebody up there working a candle and putting slides in front of the light to shine it down on the stage. So
Yeah.
how many of them really knew to look for broken wires and such?
Yeah, it just sparked. I mean, even though they didn't have any experts, I would say experts at it. But I would think they would have somebody who knew, how to fix them if they burnt out or did whatever. I mean, there had to have been someone, and they have people in charge of that. It's just like I said, there were so many people in trouble for all of this.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of people to blame for everything that had happened, but yet nobody went to prison except for the guy who was robbing the bodies out in the alleyway.
Mm.
Isn't that something?
He's got a special place in hell for him anyway already.
There's a whole bunch there. I think there should have been more, because nobody got in trouble for taking bribes. Nobody got in trouble for any of that stuff. Nobody got for falsifying reports. Nobody got in trouble for any of that. Now, we know that in today's age, there would have been a lot of people indicted. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
And all the charges on everybody just kind of went away. So that just shows you what kind of community that we're dealing with today versus what we used to have. But it's kind of neat in a way due to the fact is this is, like Donnie was saying, the catalyst. This is the thing that made everything better when it comes to fire standard, fire codes, just safety in general because of this one incident. So I just think it's cool. But that's my story.
And you're sticking to it.
And I'm sticking to my story, but I just, but I love theaters, I mean, this just really struck me. And I know it's one of those stories that are kind of known, but it's the one that stands out to me the most in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, people talk about like the Congress Hotel and all of that stuff. Give me a good old theater any day. I'll take that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I love my theaters.
Right. But Donnie has a story.
I got a story.
Donnie's got a story.
I got a gnarly story. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Sounder?
No.
Okay. There's a little black kid. He comes out to his teacher. He says, "Miss Johnson, I got a story. I got a story that's true to happen to me." Okay. Now, Donnie, get after it.
Okay.
I got the story that's true to me.
So
I
a lot
love
of people.
I love that.
So in a lot of ways, Chicago is regarded as probably one of the most, if not the most haunted city of all the great American cities.
Yeah.
Because of just the sheer volume of hauntings. They have like ghost tours everywhere, like in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the reasons why people lean towards that opinion is like how Brandy talked about the number of disasters that have just happened. Like every city, of course, has had their disasters, right? San Francisco earthquake, Hurricane Katrina, 9/11.
Right.
Every city's had their disasters. But Chicago almost has like a unique history with disasters because you had the Iroquois Theater, you had the Great Chicago Fire. There was a major flood disaster that happened in '92.
We've even had our own here. I don't mean to cut you off, but we've even had ours here. We had the New Madrid fault line.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had that big earthquake. So yeah, I mean, you're right. We've had something
There
that
was
has been catastrophic.
there was a ferry crash. I think it was around the turn of the century where like a whole bunch of people died. Um,
There's been
St.
more than that.
Valentine's Day Massacre, right? So people like
Yeah.
are of the mind that Chicago is uniquely not just haunted because there's plenty of haunting like haunted locations and haunted stories, but
Mhm.
that it's cursed. The land is cursed.
Yes.
It's just a lot of bad luck. And even nowadays, Chicago is not like the pinnacle of like how a well-run city should be, right? It's all over the news for all this controversy and political stuff that we obviously won't get into. But anyway, I think I figured out the origin of why Chicago is so cursed. So this goes to the very origin of Chicago itself, before there was even a city there to begin with. This goes all the way back to 1812, what's called the Fort Dearborn Massacre. Um,
Oh, yeah. Okay, I forgot about
okay.
that. Yeah.
This is when Chicago was okay, so the Fort Deer this is what Chicago looked like in 1812 when it was the first settlement by like Americans.
Yep.
That's all it was. That's
Yeah.
it. It was a fort, wooden palisades, wooden buildings. This is where
Yeah.
Chicago got its start, right?
Yes.
1812, they start a fort. This is Fort Dearborn. There's a number of forts here going on because at the time the US is at war with the British Empire. The War of 1812, which I like to call the Revolutionary War Part 2,
Yeah.
the Revolution.
The Second Revolutionary War. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a map of the area. You can see where Fort Dearborn lies.
Yes.
Okay, that's like right in Chicago right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fort Dearborn at this point was the westernmost settlement of the Americans because they're pushing it, they're expanding out west, and they're starting to encroach on all these traditional Native American lands. And Fort Dearborn is the westernmost settlement at this point in history. This is to the average American at the time. Fort Dearborn was at the edge of the world. It was like beyond that's no man's land.
Yeah.
Right. The Potawatomi Indians have been inhabiting this area not so long. I think they settled that area in like the early 1700s. So at this point, they've been there for like a little over 100 years, right?
Okay.
What
They were
Indians? I'm
nomadic
sorry.
anyway, right?
The Potawatomi Indians,
Okay.
Yeah. But they were nomadic anyway, right? So they
yeah,
moved around a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. Because let me see. Potawatomi is the ones. Michigan. I had to
Yeah.
think.
I was
Potawatomi.
watching all these documentaries. They pronounce it Potawatomi. I was originally pronouncing it Potawatomi. I don't know. Their name is silly. They need to
It
get
is
shorter
silly,
names.
but it's I like I said, I grew up in school and it was Potawatomi. So
Potawatomi? I'll call it Potawatomi. That was my original pronunciation.
that's probably well,
Yeah.
like I said, when I said Iroquois, whatever you want to call it. Tomato,
Looking
tomato.
into it, I did learn where the word Chicago comes from.
Oh,
It's the Indian, or they didn't mention which tribe's language it was. I'm going to assume it's the Potawatomi
mm-hmm.
because they were kind of living there at the time. It comes from their word Chicago, which means wild garlic.
So
Because
there's
this
a
land,
That's
whole
kind of strange. Wild
before there was
garlic.
any
Okay.
before there was any like civilization, that area was particularly known amongst the natives as being very rich in wild garlic.
wow.
Well, if you've ever
That's
been to
cool, actually.
Chicago, there are some places, some parts that stink.
Yeah,
So I go with that.
yeah.
I go with it.
I
I
bet
go with
there's a good amount of it that stinks. What are you talking about?
it. Yeah, I'm gonna say there's parts of Chicago that stink.
So what happened was at Fort Dearborn, right here.
Yes.
What happened was there were a bunch of local settlers like outside that all of a sudden evacuated into the fort because their settlements had been attacked by other Native Americans, not the Potawatomi, but other tribes.
Hmm.
So now all of a sudden you see all these families all of a sudden bunched up in here. Now
Yeah.
during the War of 1812, all of these other more eastern forts, they get taken over by the British. So the people over in Fort Dearborn, their supply line's been cut off, so they all have to evacuate.
Gotcha.
Did that include Fort Mackinac, which was up at the top?
Yeah,
Did that include that, or was that just on there?
It was taken over by the British at that point.
Okay.
So they have to evacuate because they're running out of supplies, because
Okay.
that's where the supply line was going. So the place is run by forgot Nathan Held, I think was his name, and William Wells. Nathan Held was the wait, I want to make sure that's the right name. Keep forgetting. I'm bad at remembering names.
I am too. Don't feel bad. I just am.
Yeah, Nathan Held. Oh, I got it right. Okay. And then this guy was William Wells. He was the local. He was the what they called an Indian agent. He was the guy that would broker deals with like Native American tribes because this guy like was
Yeah.
married to a Native American woman. He
Okay.
was familiar with their culture. He knew a bit of their language, and he was kind of like their go-to, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Apparently, they had guys like that who
Like
were
their
in British.
liaison or
Yeah.
yeah.
Like he would live amongst them for a time being. You know, he was married to a Native American woman. He was involved in, their tribal life, so he knew their culture very well. The liaison, Nathan Held was the military leader. What happened was, as they're getting ready to evacuate, at this point, they got like 100 and I want to say like 150 soldiers, about like 50 civilians, a mixture of like women, children, and elderly people.
Mhm.
Have one who are either using that place as a base of operations before they go settle, or two, they've ran there because their settlement just got ransacked by other Native American tribes. Because apparently back then that was kind of going on a lot. You know,
Yeah.
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 Native Americans back then in the 18th and early 19th century, they tend to really like raiding and massacring people. And
It
it
was
happened.
kind of like it was like pirates on land, you know,
And it was
plundering.
particularly tense because of the War of 1812. During this time, there was something called the Western Confederation, which was started by these two gentlemen. I'm sure you're familiar. Tecumseh
Yep.
Yeah.
and
What's Libby
Tenskwatawa.
Tecumseh?
Yeah. And Tenskwatawa was interesting because this guy was kind of like Tecumseh was kind of like their political and military leader. Tenskwatawa, they were brothers, but Tenskwatawa was more like their spiritual leader.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
apparently would have like prophecies and they would unite all these disparate tribes. And Tenskwatawa would go around preaching about how the white man is the devil and all Americans and white people need to be eradicated. And they gathered up a whole bunch of other tribes. They formed what's called the Western Confederation to stop American expansion into the West. And the British Empire saw this Western Confederation as a pretty good proxy state where they would buddy up to these guys and be like, hey, you can be our little proxy state between our settlements in Canada and the American expansion, right? So they were kind of egging these guys on to get real
Yeah.
aggressive.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the Potawatomis who were in that area were kind of sympathetic to their cause. So they were not fans of Americans. So now
Oh.
when they're getting ready to evacuate because of the supplies running out, because of the war going on, Nathan Held, the military leader, whose picture I could not find, he brokers a deal with the Potawatomi where he's like, you guys, let us through. As a matter of fact, if you help escort us out east so we can leave, right? We'll give you all these supplies. We got all these extra firearms. We've got all this bottles of whiskey. It's all yours if you help us out, right? Potawatomis are like, yeah, cool, we'll do that. And so William Wells, this guy, he gets a bunch of his Miami tribe homies, his buddies, to also help out with the evacuation of all the citizens and the soldiers. So they go. But Nathan Held, the military guy, in his infinite wisdom, decides to renege on his deal and not give those promised firearms and bottles of whiskey over to the Potawatomi who to agree to escort them. Rather, he sets them all on fire, and he's like, "Screw those guys." So the Potawatomi, who are already sympathetic to the Western Confederation, who
Yeah.
were the Americans at this point, they saw the Western Confederation as a coalition of terrorists. From their point of view, that's what they were. They were like for us Al Qaeda this day, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Well,
so the Potawatomi, they gather 500 Potawatomi warriors, and they decide that they're going to attack to the defiance of their chief Blackbird, or I think his name translated out to like Black Partridge. Their chief was actually like begging the warriors not to attack them, to leave them alone, to help them as the deal, as the deal had been brokered, even though the Nathan Held kind of reneged on it by destroying all the supplies that were promised. So I think it was August 15th, 1812, when they start marching out of the fort. You have the soldiers in the front, women and children are kind of like in their train wagon. The Miami tribesmen were in the back,
yeah,
and they were let out in like a single file formation. William Wells, with some of his other soldiers, they go around scouting, and they find behind like kind of a sand dune a bunch of Potawatomi soldiers waiting to ambush them.
yeah.
So the cavalry, they kind of break off from the rest of the group, and they go to engage the Potawatomi warriors, not realizing that there were 500 of them.
Uh-huh.
And so the rest of the soldiers, it was basically a trap to kind of draw away the cavalry.
Uh-huh.
So they're engaging one group of soldiers at the top of the dune. All the civilians and the Miami warriors are over here. The other Potawatomi soldiers, they all come out. They attack the caravan, and then they surround the caravan on this side, and then they surround William Wells and his soldiers on the other side. So they're all kind of screwed at this point, and they
Uh-huh.
proceed to slaughter.
Yeah.
It was about
They were woefully outnumbered.
they were woefully outnumbered, surrounded. Estimates of deaths about it's about like 80 soldiers and about like 50 civilians, mostly
Okay.
women and children. It was like 30 kids. The Potawatomi soldiers, they just hacked to death, like all willy nilly. And this whole thing takes place in the course of 15 minutes. And during this time, they kill William Wells, the guy who was their liaison, right?
Yeah.
Who was sympathetic to Native Americans as a whole. They kill this guy. They cut out his heart and they ritualistically eat it. And there are multiple accounts of this.
Ew.
They ate the dude. They ate this dude's heart right then and there on the battlefield.
And you know why? I mean, that was that belief at the time that you're capturing your enemy's spirit doing that, and ending him so he doesn't even get to go to heaven. Like, you know how there were some cultures, if you cut the eyes out, you couldn't see to go to heaven. You know what I mean, or
Yeah.
go to the afterlife. So yeah, I know what
They
they're talking about. So
they ate that dude's heart, and this happened right on the very spot where the future city of Chicago would spring up. Right there.
yeah,
Wow.
There, they said, I've read looking into this story as recently as like the early 2000s, they were still finding bones, human bones in Lincoln Park that were a result of this massacre.
wow, was this right on Lincoln Park?
Yeah.
I mean, they were not only, unaliving, they were mutilating.
Yeah,
Mutilating and like
Mm.
kids too. And you know how they say like, you watch like all of those haunting shows where they find this really haunted location, right? And they say, "Oh, this place is so haunted because it's on this Indian burial ground, or it's on this site of this really tragic Indian massacre,
Mhm.
right? All these Native Americans attacked all these settlers, or vice versa, right?" and that's why it's so astronomically haunted to the point where people have to move out. You know about those cases, right? Think
Yes.
about it. If those
Yes.
places are that bad from those massacres, how bad is this spot with this? Now here's the crazy part, right? Remember how when you're talking about the Iroquois fire, how that was like a cause and effect, right? Butterfly effect that led to a lot of future consequences.
Hmm.
Yes.
Even though there were like 100 people that got killed, this thing had a whole bunch of consequences because back then, at the time of the War of 1812, the federal government was still kind of iffy with Native Americans. They were still kind of unsure what to do with them.
Yeah.
You had a lot of Indian agents whose sole purpose was to like broker deals and make peace. And there were plenty in the federal government who were thinking maybe we can coexist or find a way to work it out. After the Fort Dearborn massacre, and because of it, federal government was like, "Nah, screw that. We are forcefully evicting these natives from their
Yeah.
lands."
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the Fort Dearborn massacre hadn't happened, the Trail of Tears wouldn't have happened.
Now they took it, and they looked at
Wow.
every one of them the exact same. They
Because
didn't separate by tribe. It was all y'all. We're taking your stuff.
this
Here.
story made all the news back then. People were horrified. People were like
Yep.
eating up all the different accounts. And the federal government, that's when they switched. That's when they changed their tune. That's when they said, "We're not going to play nice with them anymore.
Mhm.
We're just going to kick them off their lands, and we don't care." And that the Fort Dearborn massacre was the event
Yeah.
that kind of kicked that all off.
Yeah.
So
It
it's
became a
extra
conquest
tragic.
of the continent. It literally
Like the Miami
became a
tribe I had
conquest of the
mentioned,
continent. Yeah.
who they
Yeah.
don't know what happened with them. They're not sure if they were themselves massacred by the Potawatomi or if they didn't do anything or if they betrayed them. Didn't matter though, because not too long after that, the U.S. government they sent a military regiment into Miami villages,
Yeah.
started wiping people out.
Well,
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
They
I,
were, yeah,
it does make sense.
yeah, I hate
I
to say
mean,
it like this. I really do, because everybody say, "Okay, yeah, you're right. We stole all their land, according
yeah.
to people right now." But you know what? I always look at it and say, "Listen, it was part of the expansion of the time, and if you lost your lands and stuff because you got beat in battle, you got conquered by somebody. That's just the way it was at the time, especially from that point from before that time. You could have been worse. You could have been over there with the Romans taking over lands. They weren't as nice.
mhm.
So,
Very true. Very true. Um,
but
but I mean, you could just see what Donnie was saying
yeah, oh yeah,
because of the uprising of a Native American tribe in
hmm,
an already unsettled country.
yeah,
That of course we're going to take action. You know what I'm
yeah,
Mhm.
saying? We can't have this. So it was all again greed that had began, the whole entire
Mhm.
thing, because they wanted that land, they were going to use it for something else. They were very brutal towards these tribes, and guess what, this is what's going to happen. But they, in all actuality, they wanted the land, they wanted to
yeah.
use it, so
Mhm.
they're going to do whatever they can to get rid of them. And if Chicago was cursed because of that, I'm sure a lot of states in the Midwest
Oh
are
yeah,
really under the same type of curse.
Yeah.
Uh, because it's just, you just look at the map of tribes and where they existed, and these tribes that you're hearing about, of course, a, Apache and the Sioux and all of
hmm,
these other kind of things, the ones that are named most of all, but nobody remembers, these little tribes. And the Potawatomi wasn't a big, huge,
yeah,
gigantic tribe at all.
Yeah.
It was fairly small in the scheme of things, but
But
what
remember,
they could do
they
to
defied their own chief too to do
ri
that.
right, and what they could do as a small tribe, you know, began the whole trek of the Trail of Tears, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all really makes sense. I mean, it's just the little things that build up into big things, which is just crazy. And now that Chicago sits on top of that, and then you know, and because we're talking about they're still finding bones in there, so you know that blood was spilt there. I mean, from the very get-go. And then, you know, and then you're talking about all the fires later that we're talking about. What was the big fire again? What year?
The 1871, the Great
1871.
Chicago Fire. Yeah.
Right. So then, you know, you've got that fire and that killed people, and, you know, just these huge things,
Yeah.
these catastrophic events. And yes, absolutely. Chicago, I would probably rank that in my top 5 of,
Yeah.
of haunted locations. I mean, as in haunted cities. I mean, that would definitely be in my top 5. I mean, even I would say New York may be another one of those for me.
Mhm.
Even before 9/11,
Oh yeah,
you know, I
because
believe
the
that
subway
that's
builder.
right. And San Francisco is another one that I think is super haunted.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you guys think? Are there any other cities that you would think that are super haunted?
I think most of them are.
Yeah, I would say almost, especially any of your larger cities in the United States, because they built up over time and over
Yeah.
bodies.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, they built up over time and over bodies.
Well, I know why St. Louis is haunted.
Yeah, well,
It's by one event, and it's The Exorcist. St.
well,
Louis is
if that's the case, between the fire and the 2 fires you talked about, I mean, and then you throw in the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, you talk about North
You're just
Clark
talking
Street.
about total bloodshed. Just
No, North Clark Street. That whole area where that garage is at has got to be haunted. I mean, how many was it? How many was ended up dying in it? 14, or was I can't remember. It was
I don't
a
remember
bones
the
bunch.
exact number.
Yeah,
But I mean, but it seems minimal, but yet it was so tragic. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I don't know.
Shocking is what it's the way we should look at it. It was
Shocking.
shocking.
I
Yeah,
mean, there are serial killers out there still with us today who have higher numbers than 13 or 14. You know what I'm
oh
saying?
yeah, oh yeah, no doubt.
And that's only one person. Oh my goodness. You know, I mean, I can't. I mean, I love big cities to visit. I like to visit. I do not like living in a big city.
No,
I don't. It is not one of my things. I've done it, and I just
10 years. Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
not a city girl by any means. I am not a city girl. And I don't know, is it one of those things that are these types of things that have kept me away, or because you know, I've been dealing with this my whole life as dealing with the paranormal. I mean, could this be a reason why I don't like it so much? I just feel unsettled. I have more negativity. Um, I don't feel generally well
yeah,
living in a city. You know, it's like
There's
everybody's like,
I think there's a lot of factors too, like pollution, right? Noise,
yeah. I
air
mean, I can't.
quality, yeah,
Right. You know, I would like to hear
space.
you coming
Yeah.
from a mile away. You know, I don't want to hear a
Mm.
siren right next
no,
to my window. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that. Um, I don't know. I mean, I generally need to look into that. Like when I'm at places and I just have all those feelings,
hmm
I need to look into the history, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
and see if something catastrophic, traumatic, tragic, or something like that happened. If that's why I don't feel well in a certain town or something like that.
yeah,
Um, I mean, there is a place here in Missouri. It is the UFO capital of Missouri. It's called Piedmont. When I go there,
yeah, yeah.
I
We talked
always
about this
have
one.
this, yeah, I always have this weird feeling but it has nothing to do with the history. I don't know if it's something else. I mean, could it be UFO related,
You know
alien
why?
related?
No,
Possibly.
it's 37th parallel related is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, we did have a show on the 37th parallel. If you didn't watch that, go back and watch that, because the 37th parallel is called the UFO highway, everyone.
Yep.
And it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
With all the stories that happened along there. I mean, even Donnie figured out, even if you go across the globe on the 37th parallel, it's still craziness. So yeah, go back and watch that show about that, because that's something else. But I mean, there are a lot of things out there, and I guess, I mean, maybe I should start checking history before I start taking vacations.
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh, I better not go there." No, because
Better
then I
yet,
wouldn't go anywhere.
like me when you show up, go. I wonder if there's any ghosts in that one.
I know. It's like, is there a abandoned house? I wonder if that's haunted. I'm pretty
Can
sure.
I go? Can I go? Think they'd let me go in there?
Oh, yes, yes. And then I found out, hey, in Europe is pretty cool, because there's no such thing as there are abandoned buildings, houses, things like that.
Yeah.
As long as the gate, it's not gated or locked up, you are welcome to walk through.
Wow.
Yep.
I never even thought about that before, because they do the same way in most of Europe with the castles and such. Unless
Right.
they lock it down, you can walk up to it, you can go through it. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, because if they're listed on their registry of historical places, I think I want to say it's Ireland, but if it's listed on their registry of historical places, you just give them a call and say, "Hey, I'd like to come visit," and they can say, "Well, okay, give me 45 minutes." Or whatever, but they have to open their home to you to go through if they live in like one of these castles or anything, which I think is an absolute fabulous idea. Now, you can't go through all of it, like their private living quarters may be off limits. You can't walk into
Yeah.
their bedroom or anything like that, but
If there
you
is any.
can go
Yeah.
through the main bulk of the castle or home, which is it's phenomenal. And it's like they don't have taxes, they don't pay all kinds of stuff. I mean, they virtually live there for less than nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just have to keep the improvements going on and everything going up on the historical house or castle, and you're good to roll. So, but I think it's just awesome.
I think they need to
Absolutely
lock
awesome.
me in the ancient Ram Inn and leave me there for a night. That's what I needed to do.
Right? Yeah. It's like, look, I know you can let me in so I can look around, but hey, can I stay the night?
Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend or myself.
I mean, I realize you got booze in here too, but I won't drink your booze, I swear.
Right. I'm only looking for them. That's it. That is it. Well, that is interesting, Donnie, because that gives a new take on, the whole Chicago thing, and, how maybe why these things are happening in Chicago is because of this whole thing that began, with a Native American tribe. And because that's just bad stuff.
It was a
That's
major turning point in American Native relations.
history. Yeah,
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah, big
history.
time.
So I mean, could they have cursed that land? Yeah. I mean, that's why Chicago has always been immersed in turmoil in a lot of things. And I mean anything, including politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
they straight up ate a dude's heart right then and there, right on the spot where Chicago would be,
right.
in front of like a bunch of women and kids too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just very odd to me that, that at the root of everything comes down to a curse. That's interesting.
Yeah, no.
Huh. Maybe we should start looking
Wow.
at when we find a new city to talk about, maybe we need to look at the initial curse. If
What
there was
happened?
anything that was done in the very beginning, and maybe we can put some puzzle pieces together. It's possible.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. With
Sounds
that
fun.
being said, yeah, Paranormal Paul is coming on. He should be on right now. So go watch Paranormal
Boo.
Paul.
And go
Boo.
check out Brian Bowden's channel as well. He's on
Yep.
at the same
Yep.
time as we are, but you could always
Yeah.
catch the replay.
Right.
wait
You can.
till
I'm gonna wait for the replay because I hate coming in halfway through a conversation because I'm like, what are we talking about? But
don't forget
just go
Mickey.
check.
Mickey's got one out there now too.
What'd you say?
Mickey's got one out there now too. I just saw it
Uh-oh.
earlier in the chat. She's got her own. She's gonna be doing shows. She ain't decided when, where, how yet, but she's going to. So if you can
Well,
find it
let
out
us
there
know,
again,
Mickey. Let us
go
know
give
because
her a follow.
I will watch, honey. I will watch. All right,
I already
everybody.
told
We'll
her
be
I'm
back
messing with her.
next week, same time, same place. We'll see you then. Good night, everybody.
Bye.